the great sports city of Chicago. One of the landmarks here, the venerable venue that is Soldier Field. Tonight, the city of broad shoulders hosts men with broad shoulders. Coach Mike Tolkien brings in the rugby team from the USA. The Eagles soaring with confidence after recent play. Taking on the #2 team in the world, the Wallabies of Australia. Coming up next.
To be able to play at Soldier Field, it means a lot to the boys.
A lot of great athletes have played there.
We all watch the NFL back home, and to play at places like that around the world, we're very lucky.
There's nothing like playing on your home soil. The USA is being chanted in the background.
A win would be the most historic game and win the U.S. has ever had.
Unbelievable stuff from the Eagles!
We're just looking to get out there and put what we know best on the field and hopefully show off our skills.
Picks it up, try!
What a finisher!
We're expecting them to come out razor sharp and looking to embarrass us in front of a home crowd. We're hell-bent on making sure that doesn't happen.
Australia versus the U.S., it's going to be exciting.
NBC SN presents the International Rugby Classic presented by Astellas. The USA playing host to Australia. And here in Chicago, rain earlier in the day. The pitch looks in great shape, though. It is a warm and humid evening at Soldier Field, and it's only going to get hotter in the next couple of weeks as we get ready for World Cup play. Hello, everyone. I'm Kenny Rice, and welcome in. The World Cup on everyone's mind. This is, in essence, the final tune-up for both the Eagles of USA and the Wallabies from Australia, the #2 team in the world. Team USA has been playing well. They're coming off 3 wins against Canada. Nobody's comparing Canada to Australia, but for Team USA, their confidence is soaring right now. They know they'll have to be at their best to pull the upset tonight. Delighted to be working with Brian Hightower, the former captain of Team USA. Brian, what are you looking for tonight in these Eagles?
Well, they have aspirations to get out of their World Cup pool for the first time in history, and in order to do that, they're going to have to play well against these Wallabies, and that means they're going to have to bring the physicality that they're known for, but they also have to stay in the mental battle for all 80 minutes tonight, Kenny.
One man who has been playing exceptionally well is team captain Chris Wiles, who was great against the Canadian team recently.
Well, Wiles has come in, and he's just such a mellowing influence. He leads by example, and he's taken the captaincy, and really the team has responded. His vision on the field is the best on the Eagles squad, and it comes from all the professional rugby he's played. Look for him to lead by example tonight and for his troops to follow. Here's a good look at him last summer against Canada. And really, it's all about creating space for other people. That's what Chris Wiles does so well.
Earlier, our Tracy Wilson caught up with the captain.
Well, Chris, you head from here to the World Cup. How important is this game in your preparation for that tournament?
Yeah, this game is huge. We're playing against the second-best team in the world, so we're putting ourselves against the best, and that's exactly what we'll be doing in the World Cup.
Your team has approached this year totally differently. You've taken months together as a team to gel. What can we expect on the field as a result of those efforts?
Yeah, exactly right. We've had more time together. I think you'll see a lot more organisation, hopefully better play from us, both in attack and defence. And ultimately, you know, self-belief that we're out here to compete.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And here come the Wallabies of Team Australia, hand in hand with young fans. This is a team that's coming off a huge win against New Zealand, widely recognized as the best in the world. So Australia comes in here saying they're taking nothing for granted. But, you know, coming in, they got to be thinking down the road they could win a 3rd World Cup title. What makes them so good?
Well, they've had a really successful summer, and they've beat the #1 team in the world, the New Zealand All Blacks, on the way to their first rugby championship in some years. What they do is they spread the ball out, and they play with such pace. They will press these Eagles tonight to try to match them pace for pace. They'll look to see the chinks in the fitness armor of the Eagles, and they will try to up-tempo so that the Eagles can't stay on the field with them. They'll look to create holes where they can, and they'll run them around.
Just over 5 minutes away to kickoff. #2 Australia. The USA looking for its biggest upset ever. Stay with us on NBCSN.
The United States.
We expected to come with a lot of passion and pride.
And there's a try to the Wallabies.
Talk about game management and intelligence of the game. They're excellent.
It's going to be a very tough match.
It doesn't matter who you're playing, you're always going to have a chance.
They're going to come out, guns blazing.
And a try for the USA.
Australian Wallabies versus USA Eagles
is coming up next.
USA Rugby on the NBC Sports Network is being brought to you by Astellas Pharma, transforming lives, changing tomorrow.
G'day, I'm James Slipper from the Wallabies.
I'm Chris Wiles.
Sam Carter from Australia.
I'm Danny Barrett.
I'm Cameron Dolan.
I'm Phil Teal. Don't go anywhere.
We're taking on the US Eagles.
Live from Soldier Field.
Don't want to miss it, guys.
I am with the Wallabies captain, James Slipper. And James, you've traveled a long way to come here to play the Eagles in Soldiers Field. What does it mean to you to play in this iconic stadium?
Oh, look, we're really looking forward to it. You know, as you said, we did come a long way and we've been training really hard. So we've got a big couple of months of rugby coming up. So this is going to be a good hit out for us.
You've taken the field 67 times as a Wallaby. This is your first time as a captain. Truly a testament to your character. What are you looking for from yourself and your teammates in this game today?
Oh, we just want to be consistent. It's not about me today. It's about the team and the momentum we want to take into the game. Yeah, we're solely focused on a team and a squad mentality. So, look, I'm sure I'll look back in the future about personal stuff, but at the moment we're here to win.
Great. Good luck.
Thank you. Tough.
And Slipper, the 83rd captain in this storied history. Now for the rules, Brian.
Yeah, 15 players on a team, 40-minute continuous halves. You're not going to see timeouts. You're not going to see stoppages. You can't block, and the goal is to cross the goal line, dot the ball down. Downward pressure gets you 5 points, 2-point conversion from wherever you cross that line.
The U.S. taking on the #2 team in the world. Australia has won every meeting, the last one in October of 1993. And Australia a big favorite here. James Slipper and company coming off that huge win against New Zealand.
Good look at A.J. McGinty, his first summer with the Eagles, and has really been impressive wearing that number 10 jersey. See if he can find some holes in this Australian defense tonight.
And it's underway, and here come the men in gold and green from down under to start things off. And you see the ball movement that is so good for this team. They continue to look for a place outside, and nice defense by the U.S.
Well, it's a great start for the United States, and Australia really coming out of the gates. It's normally a kickable ball. If you get the ball inside this 22-meter line, normally it's going to go into touch Kenny. Australia, a lot of guts trying to run it from there, but now the knock-on, the scrum to the United States, and everybody holding their breath, seeing how the U.S. scrum is going to perform under the pressure of this Wallaby pack.
And let's listen in.
Stable ball comes to the back.
And the U.S. had it momentarily, and then the Aussies come out of there with it. Phipps had it, and is tackled.
And Nick Phipps knocks the ball on. It'll be another scrum to the United States. U.S. going backwards a little bit, and that's why Phipps was able to come in and get a hand on that ball. A lot of pressure on that front row, and that man with the beard and red hair, that's Eric Fry, and he's really going to have to step up tonight. He's had a great summer, been seasoned well in the Premiership over in England, playing a lot of rugby now for Newcastle, and a lot of pressure on those big shoulders.
Crouch. Mine. Set.
Australians have stolen it.
Our second scrum, there's a whistle again.
Stay square.
The penalty against the United States for not staying square, and that's, you have to drive straight in the scrum, and if you don't square your shoulders, and that's what the U.S. was accused of there. Penalty against, looks like Eric Fry.
Well, the Americans being much more aggressive in the match with New Zealand, played here in November. far different. It went on and on before ever a scrum. We've already had two less than 2 minutes in.
Well, and I think if the scrums continue to add up, the United States will pay the price. That's where Australia will be able to exert their dominance.
U.S. talked about coming out aggressive. They have so far. The first line out, the Aussies have it. Basically the equivalent of a jump ball in basketball to start play once again.
It's all good.
Australia driving outside.
And that's called a driving ball, Kenny, and they're really confident to start using their forwards that way.
Peterson, number 5, coming in on defense for the U.S. Australia trying to get something out of side, met by the man that is Samu Manoa, number 8 for the U.S. A big hitter, as you saw there.
The U.S. has to stay organized on defense. No panic, just come up and make the tackles. Referee playing an offside advantage. Penalty coming to Australia.
They try to come back this way with it to McMahon. And now again, nice passing on the outside. Almost got away, but it's picked up by Rob Horn.
And that knock on by the Australians, but the referee will come back for a penalty advantage. Normally a kicking situation here, you get 3 points on the board for hitting this kick.
Offside.
You wonder if Australia will stay with their confident approach like they ran the first kickoff out of their own end goal area. See if they kick for touch instead of for points, and that's what is going to happen. Matt Giddo with ball in hand is going to kick deep into U.S. territory.
And Giddo way past touch and into the stand.
Extra yard, both ways. Every time they change direction.
There you look at Giddo, 8th all-time in games played for the Wallabies.
Giddo left out of the 2011 World Cup campaign, and a shock to a lot of people who've been following Australia rugby. He's back to prove something this year.
Once.
That's the youngster Sean McMahon wearing the number 7 jersey for the Wallabies.
Australia driving again. Now they're working on the outside, and a great open field tackle by the U.S.
That's Seamus Kelly, came up and making a huge hit.
Kelly with the hit of the game.
Number 5. It's barely enough. Okay.
Great tackle by Kelly, but penalty coming against Greg Peterson.
You cannot go anywhere near the head anymore.
Seamus Kelly out of Queens, New York. Former All-American at Cal. A lot of great Cal players dotting this U.S. roster.
Well, here is Matt Giddo with the ball. He's going to go to the line out again at 5 meters, so much the same approach. Now look here, Kenny, for the Australians to get a driving maul going to try to bully their way across the goal line here.
Pelota now will inbounds here. Basically the inbounds on the line out.
That's early.
Aussies 5 meters away from try. Driving down. Still trying to push it across.
Play advantage.
Again, penalty advantage going towards...
Still advantage.
They come out with it. And again, a great hit by Manoa for the U.S. Good defense by the Americans so far. Aussies trying to take it the other way. Knocked out loose. There's a whistle.
Except the referee paying a long penalty advantage there. Once again, he calls over Greg Peterson, number 5 for the United States, and that's 2 conversations in the last minute. He's going to send him off with a yellow card.
On the goal line, he's diving over it and he's killing it.
Explaining that to Chris Wiles, number 11.
What the referee is saying is Greg Peterson diving over the ruck and trying to kill the ball so that the Australians can't go quickly, known as a cynical foul, and so 10 minutes on the bench for Greg Peterson. A horrible start for the United States in that regard. They're bringing the physicality, Kenny. They're bringing the shoulders to the Australians, not backing down, but the mental edge is where they're losing this match in the first couple minutes.
Second infringement.
Zach Finolio there with a little bit of blood, and so Phil Teal's going to come in.
Into it and killed it.
Teal, the veteran player, 5 at 11, 220, number 16 in the lineup for the U.S.
Did you mark?
Finolio's got 10 minutes to get that blood sorted out, and if they can manage to stop the flow, he can come back in, and Teal goes back to the bench.
To the left, please. Here, sir. To the left. Thank you. Real tight, real tight, real tight, real tight, real tight, real tight. Patience.
Australia threatening again.
Nice and square.
Well, now and here the risk is you got one of your biggest
crouch
bodies from the scrum, missing number 5 Greg Peterson out, and look for the Australians to dominate this set piece.
Set.
Aussie's trying to drive it up the middle.
Collapsed.
Come on, boys, all over him. All over him, boys.
Number 9, Nick Phipps, made it to the starting lineup last year for the Wallabies, and he stayed there.
And I can help you. Here we go.
Let's go. Free call. Fucking call.
Shoulders up, elbow up.
Yes, sir.
Crouch. Bind. Step.
Sir, hold him, man up.
Far side.
All over him, boys. Let's go. Come on, next job.
Yep.
Stay up, boys.
You want to shift off this?
We can. Well done. Keep it up.
Here we go.
Keep it up, fellas. Keep it up.
There's your mark. Just say that again.
A lot of pressure on this U.S. scrum, Kenny.
More engage. More engage.
Okay. Don't chase.
Here we go.
More engage.
More engage.
Shoulder up.
Yes, sir, sir. Go, boys.
Crouch.
Nick Phipps for the Wallabies.
Bind.
U.S. has one of their tough men, Greg Peterson, with the yellow card sitting out right now.
Well, Kenny, it's also about 260 pounds of weight in that scrum that's missing.
Advantage.
Australia trying to get through there. It's picked up by Phipps. Phipps with a nice pass, and the first try goes to the Australians. Bernard Foley taking it in. Five points for Australia. Like you said, they missed Greg Peterson's big body.
Well, and that's why Greg Peterson now, you see him on the ground, diving over the ball. You see Piloto now working on him to try to get him away. The referee, a good vision right there to see Peterson. And that's the cynical foul right there that gets him 10 minutes in the bin. And here's the try by Bernard Foley. Just a quick sidestep. Nothing McGinty can do once he's lost his feet.
Foley coming off a great season, over 150 points last year, 23 on penalty kicks.
And you can just kind of feel the panic inside that Eagle team down against their own goal line, Kenny, and that's what the Australians will do to you. First, they're short-handed. Then they go to the scrum. Eric Fry's head pops out of the scrum, and he's given away a penalty, and he's okay with that because they're going backwards. But the ball comes out, Phipps to Foley, Foley with a little juke and across the line.
Foley with the try and the kick, accounting for all 7 of the Australian points. Is there such a thing? Because, Brian, everybody reminded them about the New Zealand blowout that they had here, the Americans, in November. Did they come out? Could it be too aggressive, too fired up here?
Well, I don't think so. I think it's just about maintaining the level of aggression and keeping their heads. And there you see Petrie goes in for the tackle, but gets probably the worst end of that contact. Australians have come to play too. Box kick by Nick Phipps. And that goes straight out. So the United States will get a scrum where Phipps kicked that ball. But again, short-handed. Now look for an emergency ball coming out of this scrum, Kenny. What that means is they're going to try to hook the ball and get it out of that scrum as quickly as possible. Here comes Finolio back on the field, the blood controlled, and Teal goes away. Finolio, a great story, been working really hard in Glendale, Colorado to get a spot on this team.
Blood substitution.
He's a teacher by day, works for Regis Jesuit High School as a chemistry teacher. You'll find a lot of that on the U.S. team, Kenny. A lot of guys who don't play professional rugby trying to make it in an international world. Finolio's one of them.
Zach Finolio with the line out. tosses it in. U.S. high, tips, keeps.
Al McFarland looking for some room.
And McFarland finding very little there. They'll try to cut it back inside. Duratalo stopped.
Intriguing battle tonight between Wycliffe Paulo and Samu Manoa.
McGinty will kick it away.
The high ball looked like Kurtley Beale gave a little nudge to Chris Wiles on that wing.
Just touch.
Good strategy there. Number 10, A.J. McGinty. As you look at 15, Blaine Scully out of Sacramento. Again, one of those University of California All-Americans on this team.
I think maybe a little bit deeper on that kick for McGinty. Give Blaine Scully and Chris Wiles a chance to run onto the ball a little bit. If you got one player going backwards and one player going forwards, Kenny, the person going forwards usually has the advantage in the air, so that's what you want. Maybe a little bit further on that boot.
Just patience.
Phipps to feed this scrum, and remember, Kenny, a man down, and this makes the job of the Australian pack a lot easier.
Greg Peterson with that yellow card for the U.S. still sitting out. He's been over there for about 3 minutes now, the 10-minute penalty. And here comes Australia. They kick it.
Matt Giddo
drifting back is Scully.
Now he calls for the mark. You catch the ball inside the 22-meter line and call the mark when you catch it. Now Blaine Scully can tap the ball or simply kick it out of bounds.
If you start moving, they can come. It's a free kick.
Scully lifts it high and into touch.
And pushes the Australians back a little bit. Peterson on the sidelines there.
You see the big body they're missing right now in the 6'8" Peterson. One of 13 men on this USA team playing professionally overseas, a positive for the Americans as they talk about all the international experience they're getting and bringing back home now into this camp, getting ready for the World Cup.
And some question marks during the summer campaign about who was going to fill the role of the starting lock position, and Peterson has really stepped up. You got to have one enforcer in the lock pairing, and Peterson has become that guy.
Australia cross halfway into U.S. territory once again. Phipps dishes it off to the side.
Release.
And Phipps out with it. Knocked away from Foley. Chased down, though, by the Australians.
U.S. does a great job coming up, playing pressure defense, really trying to make the Australians make decisions.
And they'll boot it away. Bill kicks it. And Blaine Scully takes it.
Kurtley Beale looking to find the touch line with that kick. But instead, the ball rolls into the in-goal area, and so that's a 22-meter drop kick. McGinty to do the honors. 22-meter drop, Kenny, has got to be drop kicked across the 22-meter line. It doesn't have to go anywhere besides across that line, but usually it's going to be kicked deep here.
2 minutes to go in the sin bin, as it's called, the penalty box, basically, for Greg Peterson with that yellow card early. Here comes the Aussies making one more run at it and getting one more try and taking advantage, and getting the score is Nick Phipps. Phipps earlier with the assist, and now he gets his try.
Well, it looked like a little bit of obstruction maybe on Foley. You see Wiles coming in to try to make that tackle. Samu Manoa drags Foley down, but Lamosatelli can't catch up with Wycliffe Paulo.
Paulo, the beautiful assist, and Phipps tacks 5 more on for the Aussies.
That's just defensive shape there. You got to come in and make those tackles. Blaine Scully looks like getting a little treatment.
There you see Phipps. Many of these Australians playing professionally. Several are same teammates. Obviously a huge advantage for them.
And that's one of the big differences. You'll see these guys, not only they grow up with a rugby ball in their hands, Kenny, but they're also playing professional rugby week in and week out. Every single player that's wearing a yellow jersey tonight is a professional rugby player.
We talk about the 13 that the U.S. have playing overseas. As you said, on this team alone, there's 15, all the starters right now for Australia playing professionally as well.
Well, and U.S. rugby has come a long way in a couple of years, but until there is a high-performance opportunity and development pathway for players in the United States, not only to reach the national team, but to play high-quality matches week in and week out, they'll struggle to compete with the top-tier nations like Australia.
Wycliffe Palu with the beautiful assist. Nick Phipps takes it in for his first try. And you saw one of the several Australian flags. And now, after sitting out for 10 minutes with the yellow card, Greg Peterson has returned for Team USA. A much-needed return. Fry has it for Team USA. Americans trying to work it inside. McFarland trying to find some room on the outside. And now Duratalo will try to go up the middle and take it down.
Well, United States right now operating without a fullback because Blaine Scully is nowhere to be seen. Chris Wiles has dropped back into the fullback role.
And driving it forward is Peterson, who just came back in. Now the Americans trying to find some room, but not much there. Cleared back out of there by Petrie.
Peterson with fresh legs, looking to make a little bit of room.
Nice fake. McGinty keeping it.
Looking for the offload. Couldn't find Cam Dolan. Would have been a great break if he could.
Swinging around with a foot.
Eric Fry gets his chance. Now outside, nice open field tackling by McMahon of Australia.
Penalty advantage. There goes McGinty. He's found some space in the line in front of him throughout the summer, and he's started to poke a few holes in this Australian defense. It's an encouraging sign for the U.S.
U.S. driving it down, trying to get inside the 22 meters and getting closer. Peterson driving it straight ahead. The Americans trying to answer after dropping behind 14-0.
On the U.S. long penalty advantage being played. James Slipper being called for coming in from the side of a ruck. A long penalty advantage to see if the United States could get something going towards the goal line. The United States points towards the post. They'll take a shot at 3 points to get on the board. And I think that's the right decision, Kenny. You got to get something.
You didn't go to ground. Yeah, but you didn't go to ground. You only get those rights when you go to ground. Okay.
On the field for the United States, Folau Nua now. Blaine Scully looks like he's taken a bow, and I don't know if that's for the night or not. We saw him tackling Wycliffe Palu on the last try that Australia scored. I'm not sure if he took a knock to the shoulder or what it was, but he was getting some treatment last time we saw him, and he's left the field. Right now, it's about better safe than sorry, Kenny. You got a Rugby World Cup coming up in 2 weeks. You can't risk injury to your top players, to anybody in that 31-man squad.
A.J. McGinty with the kick. From Ireland, came to New York, was training at Life University, worked out with the USA squad. They said, we'd like to have you, and that's how it all came about. And now McGinty, one of their key men, with the kick. This would be huge for Team USA. He has distance, and he has 3 points.
Well, it's a relief to get on the board, and McGinty, cool as a cucumber, puts that ball across the crossbar.
And another look at A.J. McGinty, straight and true, and the U.S. gets on the board almost halfway into this first half.
It's meaningful to get on the board, but Kenny, I think this team wants to cross the goal line. It'll be important for the United States to score a couple of tries tonight if they can.
Fine.
Outside, yes. Outside. Inside's fine. Inside.
Hold inside is the call, and that means that the ball was inside the 22-meter line. Curtly Beale goes quickly. Notice the Australians pushing the pace, Kenny.
Now McGinty will kick it back.
Hold ya. Hold ya.
And again, the Aussies go for the quick line out. Curtly Beale, one of the best attacking fullbacks in the world.
Beale fakes, keeps, and is brought down by Duratalo.
For those watching at home, if you're used to seeing a tackle followed by a whistle and a stoppage, remember that rugby, every tackle is an opportunity for both teams to compete for the ball all over again.
And it's knocked away. Nice defense again by the Americans, and that is Samu Manoa.
Knocked it up. He wanted to catch it.
6'6", 270 pounds. After the World Cup, he has signed a lucrative contract to play professionally in France.
Yeah, Toulon is now going to be writing the paychecks for Samu Manoa, and he's worth every penny. Blaine Scully coming back on the field, so that's an encouraging sign for fans of U.S. rugby and for the entire coaching staff of the United States Eagles to see Blaine Scully run back on the field, maybe a little bit of air back in the lungs.
They lost Peterson early, 10 minutes with a yellow card, and then Blaine Scully shaken up, but as you can see, is back in and playing back deep for Team USA.
Mine. Set.
And you'll notice much more stable with Peterson back in the fold as well.
Ball's under the locks.
Great job by the United States. Good stable scrum.
Phipps comes out with it. Nice pass. Leaves it for Kamani.
Nothing for him, no breakdown.
Now Phipps again basically acting like a quarterback throughout this game so far, controlling the pace.
And the United States doing a great job of coming up.
Good D, and they turn it over. The U.S. has it back.
Chris Wiles does a great job buying some time for the support to arrive.
Now Peterson drives forward. Coming out with it is Petrie.
McGinty trying to find room. He's probably just going to have to eat this one. He looks for some support. He gets it.
Peterson comes out. McFarland. And now they'll kick it away. Petrie. Andre Bowen. Right there with him was Wiles, the U.S. captain, number 11.
The question that the referee has for the assistant ref is, was there a mark called? Did Bernard Foley call a mark when he caught the ball?
Almost like you're calling it a free
It's a free kick. Yeah, it's like a fair catch almost.
As Scully back in the game after going to the sideline for a couple of minutes, shaken up. Trying to get something outside. It's not been there. Now they'll cut it back in. Spate carrying for the first time for the Wallabies.
Spate's one of those experiments that Michael Cheika has on the field right now. Normally a wing, the Fijian-born Henry Spate.
Another big hit. Palamo, number 12, making it for the U.S.
Fine play, it's all out.
Notice the U.S. defense coming up pretty quickly, but Bernard Foley finds a little space behind. Wiles in a little bit of trouble, scrambles, finds his feet, and kicks the ball into touch safely.
Let's take a look at some of the hard hitting we've seen from the U.S. so far.
There's Threat Palamo right there, and he looks like...
That is shades of Dick Butkus or Mike Singletary. For those of you not old enough to remember Dick Butkus, like you perhaps, we'll mention Mike Singletary. But that was a bone-jarring tackle that he made. And Palamo out of Utah, played at Utah from Woodland, California, 260 pounds. As you see, being attended to again is Zach Fenolio. He went out earlier and looks like got another hit in the nose. And reminder, coming up in 2 weeks, starting September 18th, it will be the Rugby World Cup 2015. You go to watch RWC 2015.com. The Australians trying for their third World Cup championship. Won it in '91, and in '99 they were runner-up in 2003. The United States hoping to go over there and make some kind of statement this year just by making a good showing, which would be a great improvement.
Well, they've never won more than one World Cup game out of their pool play, and this year they have designs on advancing into the quarterfinals. They're going to have to take on Samoa. They're going to have to take on Scotland, both brutally physical teams. And I think tonight is where they figure out what their standard is.
Here's how they've done in the past. 95 being the worst. They didn't even get a chance. But in 2011, 2003, they picked up a win in each one of those. But as you say, getting out of the pool stage is the goal this year.
And look, you know, playing against Samoa, they played them close this summer during the Pacific Nations Championship. They beat Japan. Both are in their pool. So they have a chance to win both of those. And if they could get some sort of prayer from above for Scotland, then they have a chance to advance out of this pool.
Action resumes with the line out. Here we go, and here comes Australia again, trying to find something up the middle. The going has been tough throughout the day so far. Phipps comes out with it again, and again open field tackling by the U.S.
Good organization by the U.S.
And again, you felt the pressure coming up, perhaps.
Yeah,
a little bobble.
And the pressure was coming up a little too fast, according to the referee. Offsides is the call. And again, imminently kickable position from this part of the field. Bernard Foley, though, looking to the sideline once again. I don't think they're going to try to make any penalty kicks tonight. It's all about scoring tries for the Wallabies.
And Foley with the kick.
12, I think. Yeah, they're very flat. I've spoken to them.
Into touch. We look at how the Australians have done. When they get there, they do well. 2 championships, a runner-up, quarterfinal at least, semifinal in 2011 the last time. And coming off again that huge win against the #1 team in the world, New Zealand, just a few weeks ago.
Use it once.
They always get out of pool play, and they come in here saying they're taking nothing for granted, trying to score up the middle. It is knocked loose and picked up by the U.S. Great defense moving in there was Petrie, number 9, to knock it away.
It looked like Matt Giddo had a clear sailing for another try, but just the right amount of pressure on that ball, and he coughs it up.
Now they'll fire it out well into the crowd. Way out, beyond touch. It's into the crowd once again.
Behind the ball. Okay, number 10's behind.
Here's
it.
Matt Giddo.
Ball on, so we're going to take the knocks first.
A great hit by Mike Petrie. Comes across and jars that ball loose.
Palamo in there to scoop it up for the U.S., number 12.
I'm going to give them advantage for knock.
Now you look at Greg Peterson, had to set out 10 minutes earlier getting that yellow card. A United States team, though, that has come out aggressive since the opening kick.
Another good look there at Mike Petrie. You talk about commitment. Just an amazing individual. A teacher, also teaches biology back at Xavier High School. His day starts around 5:30 in the morning. He gets up, he works out before he goes to school. Sometimes during lunch, comes home, kisses the wife and baby daughter Evie, and then back out to rugby training. And that's been going on for about 8 years with Mike Petrie.
Xavier, premier high school for rugby, and Petrie, of course, knows that. He's a Brooklyn native, played collegiately at Penn State. So far, the U.S. now, as we approach 30 minutes into this game, how do you think they're playing?
Well, they got a little bit rattled in that opening salvo with the Australians. They had the ball deep in Aussie territory, and then just like that, a blink of an eye, and it's on their own goal line yellow card, and suddenly they're down by 7. Another break in the defense, and really that's all the difference that's been made. They've been coming up, they've been playing physical, but they got to stay foot on the gas, keep the shoulders coming, and stay connected on defense.
After controlling the line out, once again trying to get inside the 22 meters, and they have. Australia continues to move along, knocked away again by the United States. Great defense once more. McGinty kicks it forward. They're chasing it down. And you can hear the appreciation from the crowd. And good hustle there by number 11, the captain, Chris Wiles.
That's a great job. First the turnover comes. There's Peterson.
Peterson, wow.
Sean McMahon, look at Peterson go to work. Stops Kurtley Beale from coming through that line on the dummy run, and then goes after another tackle. And then the tackle on Nick Phipps, coughs the ball up and kick and chase. And here comes Chris Wiles. Smartly waits for Tamani to stand up and just ropes him into touch. And just like that, an errant pass. It looked like Palamo was trying to go behind a dummy runner. And that's the kind of thing that's going to hurt this team. We saw what happened last time they got backed up this deep in their own territory. They got to figure out a way to get out.
Lost. Field position, so important.
Yeah, they're going to try to set up a couple of phases, good strong platform, and then McGinty will kick it out with that left boot.
And McGinty.
It's a great kick, but there to field it, Bernard Foley. They go quickly again. Kurtley Beale on the return.
And Beale starts up the middle, and he's met head-on by Palamo once again.
Well, Palamo's come to play. What a great story Palamo is. Youngest World Cup player ever in 2007. Then he went and played for the Utah Utes as a defensive end, and then he decided to get back into rugby.
And here now comes Fry for the U.S.
Smartly pulls it back. He's not going to beat anyone on the corner.
Cameron Dolan with it. Now they'll try to work it right into the middle. But the U.S. once again, after having to yield some field position, turning Australia back. Now they'll try to run it on the outside. Moving with it is Kelly. Kelly gives it over to Nguyen. Nguyen has a man to beat. He gives it over for the try for the U.S. A beautiful pass right at the last moment by Nguyen, and the Americans get on the board.
And Mike Petrie scores the try for the United States. What a great line. They had numbers on the outside, and Taku Nguyen wearing that number 14 jersey. Palamo sees him on the corner. McGinty, great job of getting it out selflessly. Seamus Kelly, and look at the pass and go. Petrie says, give me the ball, Taku, and over the line he goes, and that is a huge boost for the home team.
Nguyen, the first time he's touched it, offloads the assist over to Mike Petrie, and Petrie puts 5 on the board for the U.S.
Well, that's an important score for a lot of reasons, Kenny, but their attacking platform, what they've said about their belief in themselves this summer, and that all is illustrated by that last 2 phases of play. Well-warranted celebration. And look at Nguyen. Tamani, nice job to cover on the tackle, but the dish in the offload.
Perfect. Petrie sailing in, and the Brooklyn native gets the try.
Got ourselves a ball game all of a sudden, Kenny.
It is.
Now the expectations, I think a lot of people around the rugby world thought that the same thing that happened last year in Chicago when the All Blacks beat the Eagles 74-6 would probably turn the same way. But these Eagles have come to play, and I'll tell you what, there are some differences in this squad based on their summer campaign.
And the kick is good. The try by Petrie, the kick by McGinty. It was all set up by Nguyen with a great assist. And it's now 14-10, and just like you said, I think coming into this, most people thought, you see him split the uprights there? Most people thought this game would probably be out of hand about now, I think, coming in from what the buzz was going around. And you know Team USA heard that way too much.
And they got to play this next 6 minutes of rugby, Kenny, because those are the important ones. As we see Manoa take a huge hit there.
Scully with it. Looks, cuts. Nice move. And when the All Blacks came in for New Zealand, This match was already over long before we even hit 34 minutes, and the U.S. very much in it after that Petrie try. And against the #2 team in the world, Australia, coming off a great win against #1 New Zealand. Many think the Aussies will go in, certainly as one of the favorites, maybe the favorite in 2 weeks for the World Cup.
Great take in the air there by the captain, Chris Wiles. McGinty looking for some space to kick. And this is where Australia can hurt you. You got to be able to defend right here.
Phipps is knocked down flat.
Seamus Kelly on the tackle.
McMahon up with it, and he is corralled and brought down by McFarland, #6. The U.S. has been very aggressive, maybe a little too much at times, but they had gotten right back in this match when Australia opened up the lead quickly.
And Australia making some turnovers, too, some uncharacteristic mistakes by the Aussies. And those are forced turnovers. They're getting some shoulders. There's another one. That was a knock-on. The referee sees it. It's going to be a scrum to the United States.
One more look at Phipps, who is just leveled by Kelly.
I've been impressed by the play of Seamus Kelly this summer. He seems to have grown into his role as that outside center. Some injury concerns. Looked like Andrew Duratalo.
One of the few times you'll see the clock stopped in rugby. 40-minute halves. And there you see Andrew Duratalo, born in Fiji, has been with the USA Eagles since 2012.
Actually born in Brooklyn, which is why he qualifies for the United States. But
he
then
was
he
born in
grew up
Brooklyn and grew up in Fiji, which that way balances everything out, because Wiles grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and then moved to England when he was 11 years old, the U.S. captain, and came back.
Exactly, born in Stamford, Connecticut, headquarters of NBC Sports.
Set. That's a lot of movement. Yeah, there's a lot of movement both ways.
Again, an important 4 minutes, Kenny, as we approach the end of the first half. United States has a scrum. They got to show up here. They struggle a little bit, but we have seen their ability to maintain a stable platform in this set piece.
Mike Petrie, who has a try, will put it in.
Free kick.
Play on, play.
Carrying it is Manoa. Trying to find something outside, and Gwenya has good speed. We saw it earlier when he had the assist. Now they'll move it into the middle. Peterson is caught and brought down. Back out into the middle of the field. Nice fake by McGinty.
Al McFarland had a few carries tonight so far, and he's really been aggressive in the carry. And I tell you what, he's really pushing for a starting spot. I don't think Coach Mike Tolkin knows who his best deep three are, and that is a shank off the foot of McGinty.
Straight up, and there you see it was blocked. A kick by Scully. Knocks it back. And now, coming to halfway, trying to get there. Still not in U.S. territory, though, the Australians.
And Curly Beale runs straight into Samu Manoa, and nobody wants to run straight into Samu Manoa.
And again, great open field tackling, and Gwenya getting in there to bring him down.
And Gwenya's been a wing for the French club Biarritz for the last several years. You can see his experience, and he can read the game, and he comes up strong to make that tackle before the Australians can get anything going.
Just over a minute and a half to go here in the first half.
Curly Beale tries the boot. It goes
straight away, and the touch. A nice souvenir there. Great catch. And look, basically like a linebacker reads a running back. He hangs in and makes the tackle.
And here comes Nguyen. He comes up, a great read on Matt Giddo, trying to get the ball in the hands of Bernard Foley on the corner. There's Al McFarland getting a little bit of attention. I tell you what, you got to be impressed with the level of commitment of the U.S. Eagle team so far. Mike Tolkin has these guys playing with their hearts on their sleeves.
There's C. McFarland, New York Athletic Club, one of the powers in rugby. Played collegiately at St. John's and debuted with this team this summer, and this summer's been huge. They talk about how they've actually had a camp where they spent an entire month together, and as you alluded to earlier, Brian, with all these guys that have jobs, 9 to 5 real jobs to keep supporting their families, it's unusual to get them together for this long.
Yeah, and you know, it does. It takes a lot out of, you know, a player to get them here, and it's really stressful. So you got to give them credit for being away from, especially the guys with families, with kids, guys like Mike Petrie. You know, he's got, you know, his wife Lauren and daughter Evie at home, and they're still supporting him. And all of these players, and we talked about it this week, just acknowledging the people that they're playing for and how important it is to have that support network.
It started out a little iffy when Greg Peterson had to go out with a yellow card for 10 minutes. But things got back, as you see Al McFarland now going to the sideline.
Fans of
change in the lineup.
Yeah, fans of U.S. Rugby will recognize that beard as that of Danny Barrett, former Cal product.
It's hard to miss, isn't it?
And been an absolute man-eater on the tour for the Sevens team.
6'3", 225-pounder. Line out. U.S. controlling.
Same all. It's the same all. Use it once.
40 seconds to go here in the half.
Just through the middle, it's fine. Use it or lose it.
The United States giving the #2 team in the world, Australia, all they want as the clock winds down here in the first half.
Well, clearly you can hear the referee say use it when a ball is held up in the maul.
Through the middle.
You're going to hear the referee say use it once. The ball didn't come back. He said use it again, and then they lost it. It's the use it or lose it law.
Yeah, should be. Let's go.
Now the scrum to Australia. Time running off the clock. There's the signal for the end of the half. You wonder if Australia wants to keep playing rugby or go into the locker room here.
Crouch. Shoulders up, both of you. Mainly. Mine. Play it. Oh, sit.
They're going to keep playing rugby.
And they are. And moving it ahead is Ghetto. Ghetto brought down. One more try. Phipps gives it over to Foley.
Numbers on the corners, but another forced turnover there by Seamus Kelly.
Kelly shooting through. And now we come to the end of the first half. What a first half it has been. As you look at Henry Spate and his Wallabies from Australia, #2 in the world, coming in here as big favorites, but the United States playing them tough, 14-10 here, as both teams will head to the locker room. And you take a look at Zach Fenolio. He has been battered, a little blooded, but playing tough. Let's check in with Tracy Wilson now on the sideline.
I'm with Mike Petrie. Mike, did you think coming in here that at the half you would be 4 points behind the Aussies?
Yeah, without a doubt. We knew we were going to be in this one, and the fans have helped us out a lot. The boys have been great the whole first half. We just need to finish this out and bring this energy out for the next 40 minutes.
Tell me, first of all, about the hits early on that have sort of set this whole thing up.
Yeah, the guys have raised the tone. I mean, it starts with guys like Seamus and Tucker on the outside coming in hard, and they're really raising our standard throughout the game. So we just need to keep bringing that the whole next 40 minutes.
Your feelings on the try you just scored?
It was a good team effort. You know, Tucker did a great job. The boys swung the ball wide. You know, and all I just needed to do was just be there. So credit to the boys. They did great work to get quick ball, and that's what we want in this game.
Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Petrie with that try to make it closer. As you heard, Team USA said all week, we're not taking anything for granted. We concede nothing coming in. And it's turned out to be an entertaining first half. The Wallabies, #2 in the world, lead by 4 over USA. We'll be back with more activities here at the International Classic. And welcome back, International Rugby Classic, presented by Stellas. Australia, number 2 in the world, leading 14-10 over the USA Eagles. The USA has never beaten Australia. This would be the biggest win in the program history. Kenny Rice, along with former USA team captain Brian Hightower, we welcome you back in on what has been a warm, muggy summer night, and it's heated up in here as the fans believing that the U.S. may have a chance, as they came in a big underdog as we start the second half.
Well, the United States just has to keep their composure. We said at the very beginning of this game, Kenny, keep that mental edge through 80 minutes. And you wonder if the seeds of doubt have started to be sown a little bit in the heads of the Australian players.
Aussies trying to spread it out. Some good tackling early on by the United States. We saw it throughout that first half. And once again, Palamo right there to bring down a Wallaby.
And Palamo's been huge in the midfield for the Eagles. Lots of guys stepping up, making hits. It's been a great collective team effort on defense. It's got to be maintained through the next 40, though.
And for the United States, biggest win in the history of this program to knock off the number 2 team? I asked the question. Most people think this would be the biggest win.
Absolutely. Not even most people. Everybody knows that this would be an absolutely unprecedented victory for the United States. The United States has never beaten what is known as a Tier 1 country in rugby, Kenny. So any of the top 10 countries, really, top 5, top 6 especially, certainly not at number 2.
Over 25,000 fans on hand tonight at Soldier Field, one of the largest crowds to ever watch USA Rugby.
A lot of unforced errors from the Wallabies, a lot of knock-ons. Now, some of those are coming because of the shoulders of the American tacklers, but if I'm Michael Cheika, I wonder about that halftime discussion. He's usually a pretty mild-mannered, philosophical bloke, but he's got to be a little bit worried about the performance of this Wallaby team.
Line out controlled by Team USA. Ngwenya, who had a great assist for the last try. Now with the ball is Palamo, who's made some great hits, as we've already seen throughout this game.
Tough to tackle, and Palamo almost got that leg free for a breakaway. McGinty goes to the air. He's got Blaine Scully.
Scully giving chase. Getting the ball, though, is Bernard Foley, number 10 for Australia.
Blaine Scully, kind of his bread and butter, his ability under the high ball, but that one just doesn't hang up long enough for him.
And he'll kick that into touch. We know one famous Australian, an Academy Award winner, and quite a rugby player himself, I understand, is watching, Russell Crowe, with a shout out to another famous Aussie, Hugh Jackman. Yes, the Wallabies are playing right now at Soldier Field. They're having to play a tough game against the Americans. I added that last part.
I'll tell you what, if you're an Australian rugby fan, you got to be a little bit nervous right now, the way these Eagles are coming at the Wallabies.
Well, as we know with any athletic contest, sometimes when a team comes in as a big favorite, you say, oh, just how much hype is it when they say we're not taking anything for granted. But Australia said that. Said, look at USA. They won 3 straight against Canada. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They're at home. We're not taking it for granted. It's showing now with the way that the Americans have played.
Offside, over 15, number 9.
Well, and a penalty against Australia. That's Nick Phipps being called for the penalty. The U.S., and you can tell just the way they're carrying themselves. A lot of composure.
There you take a look at number 9, Mike Petrie, who had a try, the last try for the U.S. Out of Brooklyn, New York, played at Penn State.
Looks like John Quill, wearing the number 20 for the United States, has come on to start the second half.
Quill, another sizable body at around 240. There's number 10, Bernard Foley. Foley just getting a 3-year contract extension on his professional career.
That's a great kick. Downfield. The United States, they're just moving confidently. They There's nothing panicky about the way they are. We mentioned that first 5 minutes, how they got themselves under a little bit of pressure, but now they're banging on the door on the Australian end. Great execution. There's John Quill in the air. Can the U.S. make something from this 5-meter line? It's been a big problem from these Eagles, and already we see the knock-on by the U.S. down at their 5-meter line. And Kenny, if there's been any Achilles heel for this Eagle team, it's been how to create points, especially tries from the 5-meter line when you're knocking on your opponent's door. And so many times they've worked their way down to receive nothing. It is absolutely frustrating. And now the Wallabies with the put in.
Shoulder shape.
Number 9, Phipps with the ball.
Shoulders up. 5. 6.
Good scrum by the Wallabies. A penalty advantage being played.
Left.
Australia with it, holding on to that 14-10 lead. 45 minutes plus being played into this. Nick Phipps been a big part of this team tonight. And kicked into touch. There you see a happy Wallaby fan. Several of them staying in the area. We saw them at the hotel cheering on their team. Some came with the team last week. The Wallabies came over to Chicago on Wednesday, but they are very accustomed to the Midwest. Last week, they were on the Notre Dame campus, spent the week there training, came to Chicago here, about the 95-mile drive on Wednesday, and then next week they plan on going back to South Bend and train some more before they go on to London for the World Cup.
And they absolutely love it on that South Bend campus. In fact, the players tell you, they are all wearing Irish kit now, the Fighting Irish hats, the jerseys, and some of them actually said they're going to get a chance to put pads on next week and see what that feels like. That'll be interesting.
Trying to drive the ball one more time. They have not been able to outmuscle the U.S. throughout today.
Sean McMahon with the break.
McMahon stopped. They'll try the other way. Hanging on to it. Nice little pass inside by Foley. They try the direction up the middle. United States, then 5 meters of a try, and then they turn it over to the Australians. What a huge turn it would be if the Aussies can put 5 more points on the board. And it's one of those where they can't afford to make mistakes like that against a team like this. And there's the takeaway. Taking the ball away is McGinty.
Comes on a screaming defensive line, puts pressure.
There's another look at it. You see 14, and Gwenya has made some big plays tonight, and then McGinty coming in and ripping it away, the former Life University star.
But a long advantage being played by the referee, and so it'll be a penalty to Australia. Here's Giddo. He'll kick to the corner. Energetically, Kenny, the game seems to have taken a little bit of a lull, and it wouldn't have been that way if the United States could have capitalized. The line-out is one of their strengths, and they had the ball in the air, and it looked like when John Quill went up, caught the ball, he just wasn't able to hold on to it. The United States squanders it, and look, we're 95 meters away from where the United States was.
The total opposite end. Now with it is Douglas, number 4. They're trying to bully their way in, getting close to the try. Did they get it in there? It looks like they have.
They did. That's Sean McMahon.
Did. It is McMahon.
Wearing 7, the youngster, former Sevens player for the Wallabies.
Rookie of the year in Super Rugby last year, a breakout season, and there he is, the 21-year-old, 225 pounds.
Well, this is just the Australians exerting their pack dominance on the U.S. So hard to stop that rolling maul.
And what a turnaround. The U.S. within 2 meters of taking the lead and driving it all the way to the other end and scoring as Australia to up it once again by 9.
Just like that, and it's really a combination of errors. First, the knock on from the line out, and then the scrum, and a penalty in the scrum yields the kick. The kick yields another line out, more possession, and another penalty, kick to the corner, and just like that, the Wallabies march it 100 meters away from what was U.S. pay dirt.
A huge turn of events. Foley to kick. On its way and through. So what could have been a 17-14 lead for the U.S. After the turnover, it's now the Australians increasing their lead to 21-10.
And for the Americans, this is about staying on the job, and you wonder if the Wallabies are waking up. Sometimes a team can just flip the switch. They can have a look with each other, just eye contact in a little huddle, and basically decide to change the shape of a game. And you wonder if the Wallabies are capable of doing that against the Eagles, or can the U.S. continue to bring their shoulders, cause turnovers. There's Will Guinea. He's come in to replace Nick Phipps at halfback.
Guinea, number 22, one of the stalwarts on this team. Douglas has it right now, brought down with an ankle tackle. A nice one by the captain, Wiles. They get it out to the middle of the field. Piloto now hasn't carried much, gets it there. And now they'll kick.
Box kick by Guinea inside the 22-meter. Chris Wiles, U.S. captain, calls for the mark, and he'll get it.
There's a look at Wiles, born in Stamford, Connecticut. Spent a lot of his youth at Allentown, Pennsylvania. His family moved to England. Of course, that's where he got into the game of rugby. And he is the captain of this team. And that one is high, way into the stands. The turnover for the U.S. so big early in this second half.
Fenolio, he hits his target. There's John Quill, but then just nobody to catch that ball. Everybody's focusing on the drive, and Quill is handing the ball down so that the U.S. can start their rolling ball. And unfortunately, the ball goes forward instead of in the safe hands of one of those forwards. That's just a communication thing.
And Quill in for the first time in this game here in the second half.
Yeah, and I don't think that's John Quill's fault. He's just laying the ball out, and it looks like somebody missed an assignment. Somebody's supposed to have their hands on that ball.
And the line out. Here comes Quade Cooper. Now in the lineup, number 21 for Australia. Let's check in now, see what's happening on the pitch. Go down to Tracy Wilson.
Well, guys, it was interesting in practice yesterday, talking to Michael Cheka, and I was with the Australian media who were talking about this as a little warm-up game, and he said absolutely not. He said our World Cup starts with this game against the Eagles. He was not taking this team lightly, and neither were his players. They, to a man, talked about the physicality of the U.S. players, and that certainly has been a factor at this point.
Thank you, Tracy. And now mentally, how will the U.S. be able to hang in here after having a great opportunity blown, and instead it turned into 7 more points for the Australians? Aussies trying to drive straight ahead. Looking outside and getting across the halfway mark into U.S. territory once again. Nice little inside pass by Foley.
Seems like a little bit more urgency at the breakdown. U.S.
And you're watching live from Soldier Field in Chicago. So many great events over the years. And this is the International Rugby Classic presented by Astellas. Glad that you're with us. Kenny Rice, former U.S. captain, Brian Hightower, and Tracy Wilson on the sideline. Australia, number 2 in the world, coming in after a big win against number 1 New Zealand. They're a huge favorite over Team USA, but the Americans playing tough, trailing by only 4 going into the second half. And then Australia able to take advantage of a U.S. turnover and put 7 more on the board. So that's where we are right now at the 53-47 mark of this match.
Earlier, Kenny, we talked about staying mentally in this. And mentality and fitness are linked so closely together. If you don't switch on mentally, and if your fitness isn't there, you start to commit penalties. You just don't retreat as fast across the offsides line. You make bad decisions in the breakdown area. You can't keep your feet as much, and that starts to wear on you, and penalties start to accrue. And you wonder if that's what's happening with these Eagles.
And once again, Australia threatening with another score, a score that would widen the margin, and you wonder if it would just deflate these United States players after playing so hard, and they get in, and they get the try.
And that's Dean Mumm, who's come in as a replacement at lock. And Mumm just gets a nice little flip from Guinea. Take a look here, just one off the side.
Two men just in the lineup, Guinea and Mumm here in the second half. Two veteran players for them too, by the way.
Yeah, and that's a mismatch. You got Mike Petrie against Dean Mumm. And physically, that's just one that's going to yield a little bit of going backwards for Petrie. But, you know, the spacing of these players, they're starting to eat up more resources. And it's simple math, Kenny. If you can devote less resources to win a ball, and the other team has to devote more resources in terms of personnel to the ball, there's going to be a mismatch somewhere. There's going to be space. And the experience of these Australians, they look up, they have a feel for the space. That comes with playing the game since they're 5 years old. It comes from the repetition of the hostile, high-pressure environment from the super professional rugby that they play.
And Mumm, all 6'4", 240 pounds, a 31-year-old taking it in. And the Australians now 26-10. Trying to add to it is Foley, and he does. 2 more points off the foot of Bernard Foley. And now what was a 14-10 game to start this second half, Australia now opening it up.
Well, that's, you know, Dean Mumm could practically lean across from 5 meters out. The Australians maybe starting to get their swagger back, maybe some questions at halftime, but it looks like their confidence is back. U.S. really needs to continue to step up. Now, look, we talked to these guys all week, and Kenny, what they said was, look, it's not about a win. It is about continuing to be process-oriented on the field, to compete at every breakdown, and to be able to play their pattern. And they've been able to do that to a degree. Consistency, an issue. We'll see if fitness in the last 20 minutes is an issue as well.
And with a nice tackle there is Danny Barrett, number 21. They kick it away. Now moving with it for the U.S. is Blaine Scully. And they'll try to get something going. And really, at this stage, they need to get something going. It would seem, Brian, just if nothing else, just to kind of lift their spirits a little bit after coming so close.
Well, you know, you got to keep this a ball game. And, you know, another try for the Australians, and it'll start to look like it's a sealed deal. But you got to stay on the job. And we'll see the difference between these Eagles and the Eagles from last November against the All Blacks. If they stay in the game, if they can put more points on the board.
And they'll boot it away. Kicking it high is Petrie.
James Kelly's there first. And number 16, Phil Teal, has checked in. He's playing hooker now. Zach Finolio takes a seat on the bench, puts the warm-ups on.
Goes back deep, number 10. That's McGinty. He gets it, fires it right back. That goes way into touch, into the stands once again.
A little bit humid out there. Boys losing some fluids, and McGinty stretches the calves. You wonder if that's the kind of pre-cramping feeling that you get. Also getting some attention, looks like Cam Dolan.
Dolan, number 4, 6'6", 250-pounder, out of Fort Myers, Florida. Another one of those Life University All-Americans on this team.
And there's the journeyman, Chris Bauman. A lot of these Eagles take kind of the unorthodox path to get onto this team, and Chris Bauman is one of them. Bauman now playing in Santa Monica, but he's from Steamboat Springs in Colorado. Just played in the mountains there, played, you know, in the mountains during the winter, doing some snowboarding, some skiing, and then decided that he really wanted to take a shot at high-level rugby. Moved to Randwick in Australia, played some rugby down there, honed his craft as a prop, and now he's able to play. He was one of those bubble guys throughout the summer. And besides the best mustache on the team, really brings a bit of an edge. He's got a bit of an attitude that he plays with. You got to admire somebody who's worked that hard to get where he is. Chris Bauman wearing the number 18 jersey for the United States.
Line out, such a key with the U.S. turning it over on their line out and changing the whole complexion of this second half, when they were within striking distance of taking the lead from Australia. Since then, the Aussies with the 2 tries and the kicks for 2 more points afterward.
Great turnover by the United States.
The U.S. now, can they get some momentum going once again and get a second win? And Nguyen has played a tough game so far.
I don't know if Danny Barrett's been working on the bounce pass, but he seemed to throw one there to Nguyen.
And the U.S. turns it back over.
Great tackle there by Sean McMahon.
McMahon, number 7, with the hard head. The 21-year-old who had a great season last year, Super Rugby Rookie of the Year, and that was a big hit to get the ball.
And offsides against the Australians. That's Lou Stanfield has checked in as a replacement lock.
Stanfield, one of the veterans on this team, getting ready to go play in his 3rd World Cup for the U.S. in a matter of weeks. And Olive Khalifi also coming in. Some changes now as the U.S. able to use some more players here. Well, this one goes into touch.
I like that move by Tolkien. I like using the bench. You got to these days. Just it's so hard to stay on the field for 80 minutes, especially if you're in the forward pack. What these guys are doing on the ground, it's mind-boggling. And if you're viewing at home and you're curious about what's going on, here's my suggestion: pick one guy, one number, and just watch him move around the field. See him stick his head into contact, but stay on that same guy, and it'll give you a reflection of what rugby players really do.
And the U.S. trying to make a move here. This would be huge for them to get something on the board. McGinty. Nothing there in the middle.
Australians coming up really quickly and holding on to the ball. United States, a turnover. Looked like Kelly went in with the ball and couldn't recycle it. Australians there to contest for it. You gotta let go of the ball in the tackle. There's a few fundamental elements, Kent. It's tackler has to release the tackle player. Tackle player releases the ball so that both teams can compete for it. Both teams send players to compete for it. A ruck is then formed.
There you look at Bernard Foley's done a nice job, as he usually does. Had a big year last year. Great score for this Australian team. Handles their kicks. Here's coming up in 2 weeks. The United States will open play against Samoa.
They will, and that's out of the gates. That's the most important match, and every team will say that about their World Cup campaign. But if the United States is going to achieve its goals of winning 2 matches or even advancing by winning 3, Samoa, they have to win it.
Universal Sports will be your home for World Cup rugby, and then the semifinals and finals will take place at NBC. And there you see the action really heating up now. Exchange of punches and some pushes in there. More pushing than punching.
I'm telling you that it better be pushes, because if somebody throws a punch on that field, it is an automatic suspension. It'll be reviewed by a citation official after the game. He's going to take a DVD of this game and see if there's any foul play.
That was John Quill, number 20 for the U.S. in the mix. Several involved.
Yeah, one of those things where everybody gets involved, and that's just one of those things that happens in a rugby match, kind of like hockey. One guy goes in, everybody kind of has his back.
Well, let's take a look there at how the pushing started. Well, take a pick there, who you think started pushing. I don't know, you counting that as a punch or not? I wouldn't say it was a great punch, but it did have the mannerisms of what you would say a guy attempting to throw a punch.
Well, for some of these guys, you'd better hope not. You know, sometimes what the ref says is that, you know, both teams guilty of kind of stirring the pot. Everyone's a little agitated. He'll bring both captains over. And what Lou Stanfield's upset about there is they want to be able to take that ball and use it as a quick penalty. And you're not allowed to hold the ball. That makes rugby players bristle. When it's their ball and you're holding it, they want it back. They don't want you touching it.
And here how the scrum come. The U.S. moving with it. Nguenya has it knocked away from him.
Well, and a chance on the corner there. Nguenya should have had that ball. Barrett looked like he was drifting a defender straight into Nguenya. He's got to step off his outside foot and make that defender stay honest, try to free a little space up on the corner for Nguenya. Instead, he drifts out. He throws the ball to Nguenya. Maybe Nguenya doesn't expect it and knocks it on. Nevertheless, he should have had that ball. And we see what happens with those mental errors that manifest themselves as these physical errors, the knock-ons, the bad passes. And once again, Australia with the ball. And they've been playing great territory in this second half, really kind of making the United States pay for their mistakes.
They already paid big, didn't they, on the line out, the U.S. losing that and losing a chance to take the lead. They were trailing 14-10 starting this second half. It's been all Australia on the scoreboard here.
Well, and then the next try, same thing happened. Territory all the way down. Australians march with a couple of penalties, a couple of kicks to the corner, a line out, success. Over the line they go. And when the U.S. looks at this tape of the first 20 minutes of the second half, what they're going to see is perhaps they're the ones who are a little bit on the back foot. They don't have the intensity that matched that first half.
Guinea puts it in. Great shot there. You can see what a scrum looks like up close. And there we have another whistle. For Australia, they've got a test, especially in that first half from the United States. What would it mean for the Americans right now, Brian, to get something, get at least one more score on the board here, not be shut out in the second half?
Well, I think it would mean a lot. And plain and simple, they've talked about how they want to execute. They've talked about the belief that they have in their systems and how they can put points on the board. We saw that in the first half with an exciting breakaway and an overlap on the corner with Nguenya finishing to Petrie, but they've got to get some points and not be shut out in this second half. I think if they are, they'd be tremendously disappointed.
And the U.S. turning it around and taking the ball back. Here come the Americans. Maybe some second wind here.
It's a great ball to Seamus Kelly. It's got to be caught. Instead, it's knocked on. Kelly's got to bring that ball in. And sometimes that's what separates the best in the world from the up-and-comers. Those balls have to be caught. Look, everyone's going to make mistakes. We saw Australia faltering in the first half, coughing up a lot of balls. But McGinty does a great job to pass this ball out of the tackle. And that's right through the hands of Kelly. He knows it, too. I mean, that's not a surprise to anybody watching this. Kelly's got to bring that ball in. He'll be the first to tell you that.
Seamus Kelly out of Queens, New York, went to the University of California and won 2 national championships, 4-time All-American.
And played under Mike Tolkien at Xavier before he went to Cal. So there's a bit of a Xavier connection. If you look at Petrie, you look at Seamus Kelly.
Xavier is a powerhouse. You look at Cal, you look at LifeU, New York Athletic Club.
There's some really great programs putting some national team players on the pitch.
Once again, the Aussies on the move in U.S. territory. They try to go outside. Nice open hit. Once again coming in Nguenya.
That's Quinn Cooper in wearing the number 22 jersey.
John Quill makes a nice tackle. They'll work it out and try to come back inside. See if they can get anything going there. And once again brought down. Let's check in with Tracy on the sideline.
Well, Coach Mike Gacheka is known as a taskmaster.
The U.S. has it back. It's A.J. McGinty on a breakaway. One man to bring him down.
That's actually, it's Wiles. He's got Bauman on the outside.
Yes. And can the U.S. get it in? What a turnaround it would be for them.
Well, the energy of this entire stadium has just been turned up a couple of notches, Kenny. The United States got to get points. We talked about it before. You can't just bang on the door. You've got to kick it down.
The crowd trying to encourage them. Smash Mouth trying to move the pile.
With Danny Barrett on the side, you can tell he wants to will that ball across the line. He's marshaling the forwards. Petrie getting the yellow jerseys out of the way. Penalty advantage coming to the United States.
The U.S. trying for their first points of the second half.
Ball available there for Mike Petrie. Andrew Duratalo. It's going to go back to a penalty advantage on the 5-meter line.
And here is how it all started. Great defense, forcing a turnover. And moving in was the captain, Chris Wiles.
Well, you can see the speed of Joe Tamani. And Tamani just gets the shirt tail of Chris Wiles. Bauman, a great line, but certainly not the speed to finish. And U.S. knocking on the door. They'll go to the line-out. Expect Phil Teal to try to throw a dart here, and a drive coming from this U.S. pack. And I tell you what, you want to talk about confidence going into a World Cup. If the United States can take this ball out of the line-out and drive it across the goal line, it'll do wonders for their chances in London. But
they turn it over. Another bad break on a line-out and a turnover, and here comes Australia running. Australia with numbers, and the Aussies are going to turn this around just like that. Moving in with the score, Curtly Beal. And oh, how many times can it happen to the U.S. twice tonight on lineouts, major turnovers?
Well, there will be nightmares in the forward pack for this U.S. team when execution is critical. They've squandered an opportunity.
And the veteran Curtly Beal taking it in.
And here's the line out from the beginning of the second half. Ball goes drifting forward. That would start.
2 plays, 21 points has been the difference. And you see Beal, who's very much respected, been a veteran player, and he gets his first try tonight. But the U.S. trailing 14-10 starting this second half. Just a little under 10 minutes to go now in this. And Australia just blowing it open, taking advantage of U.S. turnovers. And Brian, as you talked about earlier, when it comes in, and this would have been the biggest upset in USA history to pull this off, you can't make any, but you have to play the Villanova against Georgetown basketball game, for anybody who remembers in '85. Pretty close to perfect.
Yeah, well, look, it's not about not making mistakes. Both teams know that when you play hard, you make mistakes, and that's just the way it goes down. But some of the set pieces, some of the mistakes that the U.S. has made are critical mistakes.
At the worst possible time.
They're absolute must-haves. And you see Australia, you know, what makes them number 2 in the world is they'll take one of the mistakes that you make and they'll punish you by putting 7 points on the board. And that's exactly what happens here. But this ball started on the 5-meter line outside of the Australian goal line. Should have been safely in the hands of the U.S. forward pack and possibly driven across the line.
So twice, America will have to think what might have been. Getting it down to 2 meters, seeing it go the opposite way. 6 USA turnovers here in the second half, 2 for Australia. and the 6 for the U.S., 3 of those leading to direct scores.
Well, you have to, if you're the U.S., you have to develop a little bit of grit now. You got to play on an edge and try to finish off this game. You got 10 minutes left in this contest. You got to try to make something happen. You want to finish on a positive note. That could have been the positive note after the Wiles interception and almost try. So Teal now with another throw. You know, and it gets in the mind of a hooker. He's the one throwing the ball in. For Teal, for his confidence, for the continuity of his game, this is an important throw, regardless of the scoreline.
Shalom Sunuliola, number 22, in the lineup once again for the U.S. Teal with the line out.
And if only that was the line out from several minutes ago.
Because the 25,000 plus here were ready to erupt. And the momentum could have taken a whole new swing. But then that's been the case twice tonight for the U.S. inside the 2-meter mark. Chris Wiles, everyone you could talk to, talked about the great camp they had in July, the 3 wins they had against the Canadian team, feeling that this is the year in 2 weeks when they go to the World Cup, they can make it out of pool play. Do you think that is possible, or is that wishful thinking on their part?
I think it's absolutely possible. Now, look at the scoreline here. You got a 25-point spread, but at the same time, you think about the critical mistakes that the U.S. made when they had scoring opportunities. And if you can right those mistakes, then they're right in it against Australia. Maybe they don't come away with a victory, but they're close. They got to take the positives away from this, and that's been the talk in camp all week. I think they've allowed for the very distinct possibility that Australia was going to win this game, but they also talked about what they could have to take away. And to take away from it, can they play their pattern? Could they compete for the ball? Could they get in the face of the Australians? And could they put some points on the board? And the answer to all of that is yes, but they still have a long way to go. They need to pour it on against Samoa. They get them first out of the pool in a couple weeks in Brighton. And then if they win that game, then the confidence is going to be swelling in the U.S. camp. Penalty advantage at the scrum again. Another concern area for the Eagles. Oh, it's a great take by Tomani.
And once again, Australia getting close to a try. And did they get in?
Quade Cooper goes across the line, and
Tomani setting it up. Did Cooper get it across?
Now we're going to go to the TMO for the first time, Kenny. TMO, the television match official referee, has a set of officials upstairs looking at a bank of monitors. They'll get some replays to take a look at. And the question is, did Quade Cooper ground the ball on the line or over the line, or was he held up? Now it looks like he's a clear grounding there.
Obviously, Joe Tomani, number 14, leaping up, who helped initiate that play.
Yeah,
I believe so.
Look at the hands of Cooper, and as the tape rolls forward, you see him right there. Ball is grounded, and the pressure is applied by the Australian. That's going to be a try.
And another look to Quade Cooper. He's battled injuries the last couple of years, limited his playing time, but was he able to get across?
The play from the Australians there, the real critical piece was they brought the blindside wing. And Joe Tomani comes in and takes the ball. There's a natural overlap. If the U.S. doesn't slide across in defense, you have more people in the back line.
And those are the first points in this second half from Australia that was not a direct result of a U.S. turnover.
And they're going to get some breaks, Australia.
The kick is good. Let's check in with Tracy.
I'm with A.J. McGinty down here on the bench. You've just come off the field. You've scored a couple of points. Your thoughts on your play and the play of your teammates?
I thought we started quite slow, let them in the game. They got two easy tries. But slowly in that first half, we worked our way back into them and played quite well, earned a good try. They're just very clinical. Like if we kick the ball away sloppy to them, they punish you. And the pace of the game has just been stepped up again, and we've kind of been tired and starting to make a few errors. So we've been sort of just too many mistakes here.
You must be pleased with some of the ground you've made against this Australian team.
Yeah, like it was always going to be a tough game, always a new challenge for us. Like it's the games we've had building up to this haven't been as strong. The teams have been strong, but not a number 2 in the world. So it was always going to be a step up. And I thought we rose that. We played well for 40 minutes, but just we're starting to get tired and make a lot of mistakes. So
thanks, AJ.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The captain with it, Chris Wiles. U.S. trying to get some points on the board. They had 10 at intermission, and that's where it stood now with just around 4 minutes to go in this match. And for the Australians, they took advantage of the turnovers. You see, 28 points here in the second half. Those last 7 were the first time they'd scored that wasn't a direct result of one of the 6 U.S. turnovers in this second half.
Referee having a discussion, but the AR, the assistant referee, saw something, stuck his flag out.
And if you're not even familiar with rugby, one thing universal in all sports, turnovers will punish you as any game goes along.
But I think A.J. McGinty's words were spot on. And we talked about it at the beginning of the game. The United States is going to be pushed and challenged by the pace of the Australian game. And you just heard him say they've upped the pace, they've increased the tempo, and we are tired. And that's exactly what you're seeing on the field.
September 18th on Universal Sports, 2015 World Cup begins from England.
And Bernard Foley will find the touch line and really slow the tempo now. And with the victory firmly in hand, they're just going to look to leak the last 3.5 minutes off the clock.
Now you see Australia, number 2 in the world, but as you pointed out, Brian, it's no break being number 2 in the world in that pool.
No, you know, England at home with the World Cup. The Welsh, very dangerous, although today a bad break when they played Italy, lost Lee Halfpenny and Rhys Webb. They were stretchered off of the field, and you want to talk about panic waves for head coach Warren Gatland. They've already got the toughest pool in the tournament, and 2 of their best players potentially looking at injuries. Hopefully those 2 will be all right.
Well, it's been exciting for the Australians to be here. They talked about getting to play in Soldier Field. They watched the New Zealand game last year. They know the history here and the history of college football that is Notre Dame. So they began their week last week actually in South Bend. I don't know, would that be like try Jesus instead of touchdown? I don't know. Here they are, the Aussies on the South Bend campus. Coaches talking like coaches talk. They work out a different kind of ball being used there. But look, that football looks familiar, doesn't it? That's not a rugby ball. And they're actually going back to South Bend. Irish, of course, playing tonight, opening their season against the Longhorns of Texas.
And Matt Giddo throwing that football. Looks like he needs to continue throwing rugby balls underhanded.
What'd you say? They told you they're going to go over and put the pads on next week.
I think they want to put shoulder pads on, see what it's like.
They're going back over to Notre Dame and spend another few days before getting ready to go to England. Right now, they're trying to get back in for a score, and they do.
And this is just the Australians have stretched the fitness and the capacity of this Eagle team to stay on the field.
And another line-out turnover for the U.S. That has been they've accounted for all but 1 score for the Aussies here in the second half. It's been turnovers by the U.S.
Justin Fitzpatrick not happy with these lineouts. And that's Tekeli Nyaravoro. Makes his way onto the field.
Navarro coming in, getting in on the Ag Cooper also with the score coming in here in the second half. And the Australians enjoying the visit here to Chicago, even though it has been a little warm and humid tonight. Mecum Auctions from Houston coming up next here on NBCSN. This has been a fun night of rugby for the 25,000 plus here and those watching on NBCSN, and certainly a great first half for the Americans. Very energized, very aggressive, maybe a little overly so at times, but they were within 4 points at intermission of the second best team in the world.
Well, they did get stretched, but, you know, Kenny, they did put some phases together. They were able to score a nice try against Australia. We saw them show up with the shoulders in the first half and match the Australians and perhaps actually surpass them in their physicality. Now, the question is, can they take this and stretch it into a two-half game when they get to the World Cup? They'll need to do it against Samoa. Samoa won't pose as big a risk as these Australians. You have to have a little bit of amnesia when you play this game. You got to forget about the bad stuff you've done, take the positives away, learn from your mistakes, and then just move on.
Well, they needed to play close to perfect. Always a challenge on any level, and the turnovers simply wiped out the U.S. tonight. For anybody that just tuned in and saw that score, they were thought, oh, kind of like New Zealand again. It was far from it in the first half, and into the start of the second half, it was 14-10 Australia, but then the U.S. with 7 big turnovers here, leading to every score except one for the Aussies here in the second half.
I love when you look around the stands that so many people have stuck around until the end of this match, Kenny, and the score line, really, it's been a fait accompli for a long time. But they want to see these Wallabies play. It's so rare to get a chance to see one of the top couple of nations in the world play rugby here on home soil, especially in this venue.
It's been a real treat for fans here in the Chicago area, seeing New Zealand, #1 in the world last November, and now seeing #2 Australia coming in here off that victory against New Zealand, and certainly going into the World Cup, even though they're in a difficult pool, as one of the teams to beat. The Aussies hoping to go away with their 3rd World Cup championship. The U.S. hoping to get out of pool play for the first time, and maybe the Americans can remember all the good things that we're doing in the first half of this game.
I'll tell you what, Sean McMahon, when we talked to him earlier, said that he really wanted to cement a place for himself in this squad on the bench during the tight games of the World Cup. And I like the way this #7's played. Adds a new dimension. I think he just gets around the field as well as a Michael Hooper or David Pocock type. A different dimension, a little bit lankier than a Pocock. But I tell you what, he's definitely been my man of the match for Australia.
The U.S. some big hits early. Good defense, I thought, in that first half. Nice open field tackles.
Yeah, you know, and the bench a little bit thin for the Eagles. Once they start going to the next 8 players after their first 15, there's some concerns, especially on an international level. World Cups are won by teams with deep benches. That means when you bring someone in, you don't lose a thing from that player coming on as a replacement. And you can't replace a Chris Wiles on the U.S. team. You can't replace an Eric Fry on this team. You got to get quality minutes, not only out of this first 15, but the people who come off the bench have to step up. Well, great occasion for U.S. rugby, as you said, Kenny, to have Australia on home soil before a World Cup.
It is huge for both programs. Australians excited to be here. As you said, they really enjoyed hanging around Notre Dame's football stadium as well.
And they'll knock on another unforced error. Seamus Kelly can't find the handle. Will Genia boots it into touch, and that is the end of this match.
Australia shutting out the U.S. in the second half. It was 14-10 at intermission. All Australia in the second half, scoring all but one of their tries on turnovers by the U.S. At one time early in the second half, the U.S. had a chance to take the lead 17-14 inside the 2 meters, but they turned it over. Australia drove it all the way the other direction and scored, and that completely changed the complexion of the second half. And the #2 team in the world, as expected, comes away with a big win here.
We saw a pretty adventurous half by the Australians. In the first 40 minutes, they didn't try to kick any penalties. They were always going for tries, and they were a little bit more composed, more territory-oriented in the second half. They really went back to the set piece, put the United States under some pressure in the scrums, and then the U.S. lineouts fell apart, and that was really the difference. They gave Australia ball. They turned that ball into territory. That's why they're #2 in the world, why they're one of the favorites going into this World Cup, Kenny.
Mecum Auctions Houston coming up next year on NBC SN. And for the U.S., getting ready now with their goal of getting out of pool play. A little frustrating tonight with that second half performance and those turnovers. And you heard earlier on, A.J. McGinty said they got a little tired. Australia took advantage of the turnovers and really changed the pace in this second half of play. For the Aussies, well, they have won World Cups in '91 and '99. They were runners-up in 2003. After that win over the #1 All Blacks of New Zealand, they have hopes that they can do it once again. Let's go down now to Tracy.
James, your thoughts on this win for Australia?
Oh, look, it was a good win. We came here to win the game. We ended up doing that. You know, it proves how good the Eagles are. They came out in that first half and really played some really great rugby. So, look, they're going to go far into the World Cup, and yeah, credit to them.
You talked about the physicality of the Eagles coming into this game. They didn't disappoint.
No, they didn't. I think both teams showed physicality. I think, you know, it was a very hot and humid game out here, and the weather was really tricky. So for us to just come away with the win, we were happy with that and build into the World Cup from here.
Best of luck on your quest for the world title.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks. Bye.
All right, thanks, Tracy. James Slipper and company coming away with the win. 47-10. We'll have more when we come back to International Rugby Classic, presented by Estella's. Big second half for #2 Aussies to blow it open. We'll talk more about it. Stay with us.